Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Bonus Exercise Podcast. For the second week in a row, we're going to talk baseball with National Baseball writer David Brown. Have you recovered? Have you had enough rest days since the last podcast? Are you potting on short rest?
Yeah, this is my side pod day. So,
good.
I don't know if I can go full 9, but I'll give you the 3 or 4 best I got.
That was one of the things that I think people in the industry don't understand why fans aren't real fond of John Smoltz doing games. And they're like, well, he gets too technical. It's like, no, he doesn't get too technical. Sometimes he doesn't get technical enough. It's mostly that he just seems bored by all of it. And it just kind of brings every broadcast down. But I thought a good example of him where he could have got a little more technical and it would have been very interesting was they talked about when Gausman pitched in Game 7 about it. Well, it was a side day. He typically would have thrown 35 pitches in the bullpen. It would have been nice. And Joe Davis even made kind of a reference to it. Like, well, not at this kind of, he didn't say velocity, but that's what I wanted to know was like, okay, on a side, how hard do pitchers throw? Like, do you really get out and just throw normal pitches? I think they do on their side day, just not a huge number of them. But that's an assumption that I've made that I would have liked the highly paid national baseball announcers, because that seemed like the perfect time to explain what do you do on your side day and why does it mean that you actually it's not that reckless to just throw you into a game in lieu of that.
Smoltz does at least 2 things that drive me crazy, and he does them a lot. One, my favorite thing in the whole world that he does, that anybody on TV does, is that he says, and this is pretty much literally word for word, people don't understand. He says it all the time, multiple times a game. And then the second thing that he says, it's kind of like that, is how difficult it is to explain why. And it's like, you can do something about one of these.
Yep.
And that's more like the second thing is more like what you're talking about. I didn't write it down. I should maybe, if I were more into like a media criticism or whatever, sometimes I feel like media people talking about other media people is too much media people talking about media people, and the fans don't really want to hear that much. But so I don't, I'm more of the baseball side of it. Every once in a while, Smoltz will say something that is, once a broadcast maybe that I find enlightening, or that helps, or that was interesting, or whatever, but not nearly enough to cover for those other times. I mean, just that whole. It's like he's doing an impression of himself when he says people don't understand. People don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. Why are you even bothering with this? Yeah. Watching this game? You don't understand it. Yeah. Stop it. Turn it off. Turn your TV off. So,
I mean, overall, I think Fox does a fine job of covering baseball. I think Joe Davis is fine. My only Joe Davis criticism is, if you get excited about everything, it's hard to get as excited as you should be when something really big happens. He does a lot of like yelling, but I've gotten used to it. And with Smoltz, you hit it, I think, exactly on the head. Every once in a while, he reminds you, oh shit, he can be really good at this. Why isn't he this good at it more often? Yeah. And this is the weird attitude of, maybe it's just him and it's his personality, and but I don't think it used to be that way. Like when he first started, I mean, he took over right for McCarver, right? It went from Tim McCarver to him. And we were just so like, we'd heard Tim forever. And it was like, just, can somebody else do this, please? We all heard all this stuff. We don't need to hear it again. And maybe it's just like, wow, it's not him. This is so much better. But I feel like I don't remember being like thinking, oh, this broadcast sucks during the Cubs World Series. I thought Smoltz and Buck did a good job. I think he's gotten worse. Maybe he's just bored in the job and it just comes out. I don't know.
I don't know how you can be. I mean, I've said this before. I have a lot of respect for anybody that works in TV because it's very easy, even for a very prepared person, to say something and sound really dumb, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't come out right. And there's no, it's you have to edit before you blurt it out. It's not like writing a story. Um, it's just very hard, and so I have, I can't really imagine doing that job well. Um, and it's interesting to me how people manage to do it well.
Yeah.
But I do you remember ever? Do you remember a time when you liked Madden and you liked McCarver, like earlier in their career? Do you recall having at least a less harsh opinion of them before they got
Yes,
old at it?
both of them actually. And I really never like turned on Madden.
Yeah,
The shtick got pretty thick, but he seemed to always like rise to the occasion.
yeah,
Like the shtick was really there for this game is getting boring, and now I'm going to go into full John Madden mode. Boom,
mhm,
boom, boom, and all this stuff. And when the game's good, he just seemed to like not do as much of that. And so I never really was that annoyed by John Madden. I do remember thinking, like my first exposure. That sounds bad. The first time Tim McCarver exposed himself to me was when he was doing Mets games on, and he was really good. And I always thought it was weird as a kid, like he didn't play for the Mets. Why is he doing Mets
right.
games? And it's like because they're paying him. That's why, because they write him a check, and he doesn't care. That's fine. I kind of felt like maybe familiarity bred contempt with McCarver, and it was just because he was always there, and the playoffs would change rights holders, and they would just go hire him, and we'd get him again. And it's like, okay, we're just tired of this. And I do think as he got older, he just got repetitive and dull and boring, and they just should have replaced him. He should have gone back to just doing local and found somebody new. But yeah, I do. I remember a time when I thought both of them were really good. And like I said, I never really Madden was always fine to me. Like I never was like, I can't believe John Madden's going to do this game. But I absolutely felt that way about McCarver. Like, oh, again.
Yeah, I used to really like McCarver, and I liked Madden too. I fell for the shtick, and maybe some of it was the fact that the Bears were good and they were a focus
Yeah,
of his.
I'm sure
That
that's part
probably
of
had
it.
something to do with it too.
Yep.
But just I was getting back to what you were saying about it didn't seem like Smoltz was this contemptible in the early days.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that something has changed, and I don't know if it's the same thing that changed with Madden and McCarver because I think there's some familiarity there, sort of like how you got to fire a manager at some point because the players have heard the same thing over and over again. Maybe that's a similar
Yeah.
type of analogy.
It's funny. The
Um,
guy who, for me, Joe Buck went the other way.
yeah,
Like I didn't like him, and then I liked him.
right.
Um, and I think I didn't like him. Some of it was complete prejudice that he was doing Cardinal games, and he's
Yeah,
obviously rooting for the Cardinals. And he acknowledged that when he first started doing, it was more football than baseball. That he was trying not to talk so much, and he was almost turning into Pat Summerall and Ray Scott, where he just wasn't. And then he said in baseball he was trying not to get too excited because people were getting on him for, one team thinks you're rooting against the other team. And at some point he just scrapped it and said, screw that.
right.
I'm just going to do it. And he noticeably was better and more entertaining. And I kind of think that maybe the Smoltz thing, because Joe is more like that Joe Buck was more likely to give Smoltz shit. It kind of like made Smoltz seem less grumpy. Like if he started to get into some rant, you could almost hear Joe. He's like, well, it's really hard to explain this. Joe's like, well, it's too bad you don't have a job where you could explain it. He could give him one like kind of gentle barb and try to get him back. He wouldn't harp on it because then he'd just be an asshole too. I kind of wonder if maybe the dynamic shifted where Buck was the alpha in the booth, even with because he knew the job better. And then all of a sudden now Smoltz has been doing it forever, and Joe Davis comes in, and Smoltz gets to he's the one dictating the broadcast now. And maybe that's it. We just don't like that because it's not as good a broadcast.
I wish it were better too.
Well, it'll be all better when maybe next year they'll switch to marquee backup announcer Alex Cohen, and everything will be great. There's a very big concern. Like, I'm not like Boog is fine, and I have a weird. I came up with a weird observation for Boog Shambi because I really liked Boog. I was very excited when they hired him. I thought that's about as good as they could possibly do to replace Len Casper. That was a really good hire. And then we got Boog, and everyday Boog is kind of, you just kind of get sick of it. But then when he does a game on ESPN, he's really good. And I really think it's a marquee thing. I think he's been told to broadcast Cub games a certain way, and it's not as good. And I really do think now that NBC is going to get the Sunday night package, I think there's a decent chance they're going to hire Boog. And then the Cubs are going to have to replace him. And if they just replace him with the AAA announcer who's filled in for him, it's going to be very bad because he's terrible. And we're really going to miss Boog. I really miss Boog this year because when he was gone, we got the other guy. I'll take Marquee Boog over this guy. So I don't know, but NBC.
Can the Len Casper fence be mended?
My theory on the Len Casper thing is I think he will come back to the Cubs one day, but I think he will be the guy who replaces Pat Hughes. I think he really does. I think he jumped before he got shoved. He didn't think he was valued at Marquee, and he thought they were either he's like, it's not as, I don't like working with these people, or they don't really, and I don't like him, but they don't seem to like me that much. And when my contract runs out, they're probably going to move on. So I might as well pick my landing spot, and I can stay in Chicago and I don't have to move, and my family can stay where it is, and I'll just do White Sox games. I do think he was frustrated, like every hometown TV baseball announcer is, when your team gets to the playoffs and you get to the fun part of the season and all the big games and you have nothing to do. And he was filling in the fifth inning for Pat. And I think it's funny though. He's like, I went to the White Sox, I want to announce World Series games. Well, okay. Well, you picked the wrong team then.
Hey, they were almost kind of. But,
they were the playoffs right away when he got there.
Yes.
But, then they took a hard right, and not so good. But we'll get a new batch of announcers because NBC's going to have games. I can't wait to see who Netflix picks.
It'll be something like out of a Netflix has those Lifetime movie things where
it'll be the Noah Centineo or whatever it is, the guy who's like in every one of those teen movies.
Yeah.
Hi everybody. Oh God. Well, what? So Netflix is going to they're going to do opening day. There's going to be a standalone opening day game. I think it might be Red Sox Giants or Yankees Giants. They're going to get the home run derby, and then they're going to get the special games. Their Field of Dreams is back. Frank Thomas is done with his excavation of the Field of Dreams site.
It's going to look like the big hole in the ground near Homewood.
Frank,
and,
where's the field? Huh? Oh, we planted corn on it. I thought you guys liked corn. Like, no, the corn is supposed to be Frank. No. Oh boy. And then the Rickwood game is going to stay, and the Speedway game, which nobody saw because it rained, and then they had to play it the next morning. We're playing at 9:00 tomorrow morning. What? Oh, really? Because these two teams have games later that day. They have to play this morning and then go. It wasn't quite that bad, but they did. They played it like early afternoon, and nobody saw it. But that's coming back. Those are the Netflix.
Could they fit a game in Louis Armstrong Stadium at the U.S. Open? That'd be great. That would be an unusual venue that they haven't tried yet. And they have the Mets public transportation built in. So.
Yeah. The dimensions, it's 94 feet to left, straightaway left. Like, you thought it was bad when we went down and played in Mexico City? Oh, wait till we play in a tennis arena. So anyway, back to the World Series, which is not back to. I don't think we'd ever gotten there. I was rooting for the Mariners for the simple fact that they'd never been to the World Series, and it's a fun team. It was like that would be fun. I do think, and maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong. I think the Blue Jays are probably a more competitive matchup for the Dodgers, maybe, than the Mariners would have been.
Yeah. Maybe. Possibly. I think really a couple things ended up hurting. The thing that probably hurt the Mariners the most, maybe not the thing, but not having, they had Wu, available for that last game, and he pitched 2 or 3 innings or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Not having him at full strength kind of tipped the scales the wrong way. I think they probably win the series if he doesn't get hurt, which he did before the series. Yeah, I think the Jays certainly have a chance to be more competitive than the Brewers.
Yeah,
They do
well,
things that, I mean, but so and if you look at the Dodgers, I don't want to say almost lost to the Phillies, but it came pretty close for.
I think they did. I think they did almost lose. I think that the if they'd have won the game where they screwed up the bunt, I think it changes the whole series. I also think the Brewers starting pitch, which has been great, but those numbers are skewed by getting 2 games with the Reds and 4 games with the Brewers. 2 teams that just, I mean, the Cubs, so the Brewer offense stopped after game 2 of the Cubs series. They didn't hit a thing for the last 3 games of the Cubs series and any game in the Dodgers series. So it wasn't just, I mean, the Cub pitching is not exactly a buzzsaw, and took 3 solo homers to beat them in game 5. And they didn't really have much of a shot against the, and that was the thing. Oleg Praz and I talked about it multiple times, about the Brewers really rely on hitting the ball getting past fielders a lot.
Yeah.
And stringing together a bunch of hits, or putting pressure on you, and we go first to third and you make the wrong throw and that guy scores, and then this guy grows up to second base. And the Dodgers are susceptible to that. They don't always play great defense at all their positions, mostly because a bunch of them are playing positions that they probably, like Teoscar is in the wrong spot, Edmonds in the wrong spot, Mookie's in the wrong spot. They still do fine. Oh, Teoscar's terrible, but he hits his way past his defense. And it's really hard to rely on that in the playoffs, and you've got to hit some homers. And they really only hit homers at home. Maybe that's why they call them homers. So that really didn't surprise me. So I kind of think maybe the Dodgers starting pitching has been very good. I do think it has benefited from really only facing one good lineup so far, just the Phillies.
Yes.
And the thing I felt about the Mariners was their lineup, for whatever reason, against the Blue Jays was completely top heavy.
Yeah.
Like once you got past, well, sometimes it was Polanco, sometimes it wasn't even him. It was like 4 outs, and then you get back to the top of the order, and now they can start to try to. And the Blue Jays have a longer lineup. The one of Smoltz's things was like, you've got to be kidding me. He kept comparing the Blue Jays lineup to the Brewers. Oh, the most similar lineup to this team is the Brewers, because it's like, what? No, well, there's one huge difference, John. Yeah, I get the idea. They make a lot of contact, and they can 1 through 9. They're pretty deep. The Blue Jays actually hit home runs.
Yeah,
and they have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And George Springer is like one of the best postseason hitters of all time. There's a little bit of a difference between the two, but yes, continue to repeat that they're the same.
Yeah, Springer had a great. He's not a Hall of Famer, but when he's healthy, he hits like one of those people. Like he's not going to have the numbers. He's too old to think about that. But George Springer at his best is in the Vladimir Guerrero range or whatever. So yeah, the Mariners, they really had to, they had to add Josh Naylor, and they had to get Suarez back, and had to have a couple other things happen for them to have kind of a full lineup. So they were, the depth wasn't, if they had a couple guys go missing in a series, which is what happened.
Yeah.
They're not, they don't have the length of a lineup that Toronto does. So, and then when their starting pitching kind of either got injured or pooped out halfway, a couple of their guys, yeah, I mean, the Mariners definitely did not play their best series. I think, I don't know if they've really blown their opportunity. I was pulling for them too, mostly their fans or whatever. And
yeah,
I don't have anything against the Blue Jays. I actually like those guys too. They're fun guys, and they have good attitude. And Ernie Clement is the white guy that everyone down at work roots for, and he's having a great postseason. So They could. I mean, they could. The Dodgers have won. They've only won 8 World Series in 142 years.
Yeah,
They've gone like 30 times.
Yeah, because for the first however many, the Yankees just kept beating them.
Well,
all those
true.
great Brooklyn Dodger teams only won 1 because of the Yankees.
You'd think with some luck, though, they would have won a couple, but nope. So I mean, anything's possible. I don't think it's a fait accompli that the Dodgers look like they're in shape though to do that, just because they kind of have their bullpen in order, sort of. We think maybe we'll see about Blake Trinan and which Sasaki they get, but those are some areas too where they could still be vulnerable in the next round. So
I can't feel too bad for the Dodgers. The Cubs have 17 pennants and only 3 World Series.
No, I'm just saying.
No, I know. You're basically saying they're not the immovable
still 4
object.
out of 7, and it's they're flawed as they were a month ago. So
they're still the bullpen is still kind of non-existent. They just didn't need it against the Brewers, and if the Blue Jays can make them need it, then there's some games you poach one game in this series, and all of a sudden everything changes.
Home field advantage will help. Home country advantage helps for the Blue Jays. Maybe not to unsettle the Dodgers, but just to be, you got that in your back pocket. So it ain't over yet.
It took me a while to remember that Dan Wilson managed the Mariners.
It might be taking.
It would show the dugout, and I'd be like, "Wait a minute, who managed? They fired Scott Service. Who's the manager? Oh, that's right, Dan Wilson, Chicagoland's very own Dan Wilson,
Barrington's own."
Game 6, I felt like he compromised his chances of winning Game 7, and by having Bastardo, who he had to pitch every day by contract, I guess. Had him go 2 innings when you pretty much knew you were going to need him at some point in Game 7. And 1 inning he got through super fast. Like, I think he might have thrown 20 pitches in the 2 innings, but still, it's like, and I get it. It's really hard to punt Game 6. You're a win away from the World Series, and you're down 5-0, and you're like, oh, I think, a couple, and then they got to 5-2, and it's like, okay, now we can't, but you still kind of have to manage with that in mind, which is we still have to leave ourselves in an advantage situation in Game 7. And I wouldn't have taken George Kirby out after 4 just because of the way he was pitching. But I'm sure they had a plan. A plan, a canal, Panama.
George had, I didn't see the stats, but I noticed that the bottom of the order would hit him hard in that last, so I think it was aggressive, but again, I think it goes back. Yeah. So Wilson's decisions, kind of left me wondering too, but I think it still goes back to Woo's injury, B, that 15-inning game.
Yeah.
There were consequences for that. Or, Logan Gilbert just wasn't, I don't know if that was the reason or what, but if you can get starts where Logan Gilbert can get you to the 6th and Woo can get you to the 6th, then you are probably not overusing, if that's what happened, Bizzardo, and you can bring in Munoz, maybe, and then we talk about what happened in Game 7. Munoz was the play.
Yeah.
I see where, we've got 2 1/3 or 2 2/3 to cover here. I don't know if Munoz can do that. And then who do we go to? Then maybe you go to Bizzardo later. But in that moment, pitching to Springer, and I still don't even know. I mean, maybe they don't win anyway, but I do think not great decisions, but also not a great situation. Not a no-win situation, but a situation where if you have Gilbert going longer, if you have Woo going more, then it maybe doesn't come to that and you can sneak out of there with a win. So I blame that part of it as much as Wilson's decisions.
Yeah, that was Joe Davis was all over though.
He was.
I know it's the 7th, but why not go to Munoz right here? The game needs to be saved. This may be the place where it needs to be saved.
Yeah. No,
and I get it. You worry then about the ninth inning, because then it's like, well, I mean, what are the odds we're going to get? Munoz would have to have gone. There wasn't anybody out, right? When Springer hit the home run?
I don't think so. I thought there maybe was one out.
I don't think there was any, because then they got the line drive. The Smoltz, the one thing you're worried about here, and you can't just run off the bag, is the line drive double play. And the very next pitch was a line drive right at Naylor that started the double play.
Right.
That wasn't the end of the inning. So it had to have been nobody out when Springer hit the homer.
Okay.
So you're looking at either somebody else's pitch in the ninth or Munoz is going to have to go 3. Now, I know what Joe Madden would have done. Yes. Aroldis is in that game. We don't worry about that at all. You got Carl Edwards and Mike Montgomery to pitch the final inning. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
The way things have gone, just in the last 10, Madden too, going back 10 years, I don't know, half the league I think would have brought in Munoz at least.
Yeah.
That's not like, well, you could have done this, or it would have been unusual. I think most managers at this point would have gone to Munoz in that situation.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Joe's whole theory in games 5, 6, and 7, when the Cubs had to win all those games, was you'd rather make the move too early than too late.
Yeah.
You're going to err on the side of going to your best guys early, not late. You're not going to do what happened to Wilson, which is you save him and then you don't need him because it's over. The spot he needed to get the outs in to keep you ahead passed, and now you're behind, and he's coming in anyway, but now he's getting outs to just try to keep the deficit where it is.
And I don't know if it would have turned out this way. There's a butterfly effect in effect. When Munoz came into the game, when he actually did come into the game, he was giving up hard hits. He got into trouble.
Yeah,
so
he did right away.
I don't know if that means that would have happened in the 7th, but and he had been on such a roll. I don't know if it would have worked out, but he should have gone to him anyway.
Why did Dan Wilson never go to Kaz Sasaki to close? He didn't even see him in the whole series. Is it
the
because
Mariners love their legends too?
Is it because he hasn't played for them for 20 years? Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh,
I believe so. It was, and it was a tough call. Do you stick with Big Dumper or bring back Kenji Jojima?
Yeah. Then later in game 7, Gene Suarez. Do you know there's this whole controversy about how you pronounce his name?
I heard that from you, but everybody keeps pronouncing it Eugenio.
So yes, everyone calls it Eugenio, and Pat Hughes basically pulls a groin trying to say Eugenio. He loves to do it so much. So Dave Kaplan has a voicemail from Eugenio, courtesy of Jesse Rogers.
Why?
Okay, so Cap was pushing so hard for the Cubs to trade for Suarez at the deadline that he kept pestering Jesse Rogers about it, that when Jesse was doing a Diamondbacks game for ESPN, he actually had, I guess it's just a voice note, he recorded Eugenio basically telling Cap he would love to play for the Cubs. And he's like, I love playing for the Diamondbacks, but if I get traded, I would love to play for the Cubs. And he goes, and by the way, it's Eugenio. That's what he says on the thing to Cap. And Cap played it for me.
You heard that.
Cap played it for me, standing in the bleachers regularly. Cap played the thing for me. So I heard him say it, which I think is probably still a joke, just to get Cap to say his name wrong. But anyway, Eugenio or Eugenio, either one, however you want to call it. Eugenio that's not a good name. No. Eugenio sounds cooler. Go with that, even if it's wrong. Chris Bassett, Hound, was pitching for the Blue. Another interesting move from Bo Duke himself, John Schneider. There's so many things you can do with John Schneider's name. You can roll cigarettes up in the sleeve, and he can be Bonnie Franklin's handyman. He can drive the General Lee. He can do it all. How many people listen to this podcast? Old people listen to this podcast, so they all got the Schneider reference. But there's a bunch of young people like, what the fuck is he talking? What? Bonnie Franklin?
Yeah, the retelling of One Day at a Time is now old. So
yeah, a lot of weird stuff going on that set too, with
Oh man,
Mackenzie Phillips and Valerie Bertinelli, and anyway, Valerie Bertinelli, one day at a time. Valerie Bertinelli, though. Oh my God, young prepubescent me. I very much enjoyed One Day at a Time. Anyway, they get the lead while Bassett's warming up, and he still sticks with him. He goes with the starting pitcher to pitch the eighth, not a more conventional reliever, although maybe he didn't have any at the time. I don't know. Bassett struck out Suarez on the slowest pitch of the game by 10 miles an hour, a 72-mile-an-hour curveball. That was a ball. I mean, it wasn't a strike. And that Suarez threw a fit. Looked like he might get himself thrown out. Although the ump is like, okay, it's the seventh game of the ALCS. I'm not throwing him out. Let him yell at me. That's fine. But then if he had walked and everything else plays out similarly, if the next guy makes an out, Cal Raleigh bats in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
But as it was,
well,
he was on
and
deck.
if Julio Rodriguez isn't swinging from the heels.
I mean, if you've seen the whatever they call it, where they show the strike zone and they plot out where all the pitches were. He saw 6 pitches. None of them were anywhere close to a strike, and he struck out.
Right.
And he had such a great game. I mean, he led off the game with a double. He had a homer. It's like, this is. If you're a Mariner fan, you'd be very excited to have him up. And then it's like that was not a good at bat.
I mean, if you're not going to have Cal Raleigh up,
that's the guy you want
him up. Did you see the interview with Brian Wu after the game?
Woo! No.
Where there's a scream, and it wasn't Ric Flair going woo. They're interviewing Brian Wu in the clubhouse, and somebody goes, "Ah!" in the background, and it was like very well timed. It was like, so Brian, how's it feel to have this happen? And then the scream happens, and he goes, "Well, there's that." It was Julio.
Yeah.
Screaming. So probably because of that at bat.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to get too hard on Dan Wilson for the Woo thing because we don't know like how realistic it was for him to go a third inning. So you can either be mad at him that it's like, all right, we might as well stick with him. He's your best pitcher, and you decided he could pitch a third inning. He should be the one to pitch the Springer. Or you could say maybe he shouldn't have been out there in the first place. Or you could do what he did, which was he got first 2 guys get on, you got to get him out. So, I mean, it's hard to be too definitive. That my big thing, I think, with Wilson was simply going to Bastardo again. It was like the 5th time he'd pitched to the Blue Jays. It was, I think, the 3rd time he'd pitched to Springer.
Yeah.
You're trying to avoid, these, they wouldn't let Kirby, although, like you said, maybe if there's a lot of hard contact in the 4th, that was kind of the signal that, okay, George is probably not long for this. But the plan clearly was to not have him see the lineup a 3rd time around.
Right.
So you don't want to do that, but you're fine with one of your relievers pitching every day. Louis Varland pitched literally every day, I think. He's pitched in all but one playoff game, right?
Yes.
They've played 11 and he's pitched in 10 of them or whatever it is.
Right.
But I know they don't seem to be as worried about that, but it seems to be the same thing, right? Like,
well, sometimes to their detriment. I mean, Louis given up 2 or 3 enormous home runs. It hasn't been all. It ended well, but I don't know.
The homer when he gave up the homer to Raleigh, they zoomed in on him, his reaction, and he was like, "No fucking way!" Like he just did not think that was a home run. It's like that was like 30 rows back, Louis. That wasn't a wall scraper.
The metric conversion said no. So,
but that's right. He was confounded by the fact that was a home run. He's like, no fucking way. Yes, fucking way. Sorry, Louis. Blue Jays have another big decision to make. Bo Bichette has declared himself healthy and ready to go, and he's going to be on the World Series roster. And it's like, so how do you use him? Can he actually play shortstop? Or is he just like he's not going to DH for you because you got a pretty good DH, Springer. And even if you thought, well, we can monkey the lineup around and we can get George out there, I think the fact that he basically cracked his kneecap in 5 places and is playing with it probably means no outfield for George.
It looks like they've tied a hotel safe to George's knee. That's what. That's the biggest brace I've ever seen, like knee, whatever. Knee box.
So I will be interested to see how much Bo plays, and if his role expands as it goes along. Like maybe they don't start him in game 1, but they try to get him get him in at some point, pinch hit, or maybe they start him and then the idea is we'll put Ralph Kiner Alfalfa out to play second and move.
I know my guy Ernie Clement has had a great postseason, but you'd think at some point he'd stop hitting, and that and that could be at any moment. That's sort of his. Ernie has gotten hot before, but he ends up being like a league average at the end. So, and he's due to come down, and he's been getting some. He's hit some line drives, but he's also blooped some bloopers out there. So I don't know. You might give it a go just to see, but the Blue Jays, you can't put George in the outfield. You can't. Maybe you could take Davis Schneider out of left, John Schneider's son, but I don't know what that does.
Yeah, I don't know. I can tell you that in the Discipio Fantasy League, it took a long time for anybody to figure that this was going to be a good season for Bo.
No, yeah,
he sat on the waivers until like July, and he ended up hitting 311 with a 357 on base and a 483 slug. It's not like It's not like he was, just had a solid batting average and nothing else. He had a good year, so you can see why they would actually want to try to get him back in the lineup at some point. But
yes,
you got to play. You got to be able to play some defense, and he's a little challenged as it is with 2 good knees.
Right.
I don't know what it looks like with 1. Oh, I don't know. I just thought
give them a good-looking hair, though, so it is aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, it is nice. Yes. Speaking of, well, not hair, but hair on your face. Shane Bieber looks like Dave Stieb.
Shane Stieber.
Yep. I was waiting for him to take a no-hitter into the 9th and blow it. I was waiting for that, but he didn't. 3 times Stieb did that. I think he had no-hitters with 2 outs in the 9th twice and lost them. Yeah. He finally got one, right? I think he finally threw a no-hitter.
He did. Yeah, he did. He was kind of like the Susan Lucci of no-hitters. Speaking of 50-year-old references. Maybe I got to stop doing that.
That's fine. We can, that's what Wikipedia is for. People listen to the podcast and they write down, all right, well, it's one day, Bonnie Franklin.
This stuff is all on the internet. It's just up to you to find it.
Yeah, just don't ask ChatGPT. We don't need to poison the water supply of a small village for you to look up Bonnie Franklin and Susan Lucci. Just do the old-fashioned Google. Over in the National League, Shohei had a pretty good. Shohei struggling. We talked about it. Struggling Shohei. Oh God, maybe he sucks now. And 6 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, and 3 homers in the game. That seems kind of good.
It's a lot of stuff. Keith Olbermann is here to remind us that. Who was it? Rick Wise.
Rick Wise.
There was one other. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Rick Wise, the no-hitter and the home run. So,
because if you're going to bring regular season into it, then I don't know that this is the best Shohei game ever. The game where he went 6 for 6 with 3 homers and like 9 RBIs and stole his 50th base of the season against the Marlins is pretty ridiculous. That actually happened. It was like he woke up that day and just decided, all right, I think it's time to be 50-50. So I'll just do it all today. And then he did. But this one, because it's in the playoffs, I mean, that elevates it above even the Rick Wise thing. For people who don't know, Rick Wise threw a no-hitter and hit 2 home runs. That's a pretty good day.
I haven't checked the WPA, though. And I don't mean to make an even older reference, the thing that FDR invented.
Yeah, the Work Powers Administration, or is that what
something like that?
Yeah.
So I would like to but I also heard, speaking of that, going back for a half second to George Springer, John Boy says that according to WPA, that George Springer's home run was not one of the 20 most impactful per WPA home runs in postseason history.
So somebody published that list the other day on Blue Sky, and the Cubs are on it once, and they're like, it's the Rajai Davis homer is like the 5th most impactful hit, and it's one of only 2 or 3 on that list where the team that it happened to actually came back to that won the game. One of them that's really weird is from Game 7 of the 1997 World Series. The most impactful hit happened in the 3rd inning of a tie game, but it was by the Indians, and they lost. So I'm a little concerned about the formula. I don't remember it. I was making fun of it the other day. Now I don't remember exactly what it was. I'm like, I don't think this should be on the list. It happened pretty early, and then they lost anyway. The Davis one, I get it, right? The win probability for the Cubs was enormous at that point, and then all of a sudden, we're tied. I get it. And then the Cubs came back. It's still, it's a point of pride that it's on that list because the Cubs overcame it. The team that never overcame anything, a glove with Gatorades soaked all over it ruins a chance to go to the World Series. A fan wearing the last functional Walkman in the world knocks a ball away from a fielder with a 3-run lead, and they can't overcome it. The fact that
a stinky goat is showing up,
right? The fact that an usher is like, no, you can't bring a farm animal into a baseball game, and that somehow started a curse. They couldn't overcome any of that. But they did overcome like the 4th or 5th biggest hit in postseason history. That's a point of pride.
But Shohei, is that what we're doing? Yeah.
Yes, Shohei. Sorry.
Yeah. The fact that it came in the playoffs and the stakes, but also all of this. It's people are very tired at this time of year. It's just for him to kind of having to build up his innings, and it's not like he's been pitching all year either.
Yeah.
And into the 6th inning. And, that to me makes it more impressive, the degree of difficulty and the stakes and the context of where he's come back from with his injury and all that stuff. So,
well, it's just 3 solo
but I would
homers.
like to see the WPA just to compare it to Rick Wise. I haven't looked.
The second home run he hit was ridiculous. He hit it on top of the awning, just straightaway center. It's like, good God. Roof. It's like, oh. It's like, I think Freddie Freeman says that every once in a while he'll be walking through the dugout and Shohei will be there and he will just touch him to make sure that he's real. Like, oh yeah, that's right. You really are a thing that happened. Like, good God. I can't imagine what it's like to play with that guy and just see it every day, all the ridiculous stuff that he's able to do.
You almost have to, I don't know how you don't want to become a fanboy of your own teammate or worship him literally. Did you see though the video of him coming to the game, pushing his baby stroller with the dog?
I thought you were going to say that he was riding in on a rickshaw and Ipe was pulling it. It's part of his. It's part of his sentence.
Well, that might be what actually happened, and then they used the government agency to cover it up. But yeah, I thought that was adorable with the dog and the baby.
My one
and dad.
Yes. My one prediction for the World Series is that if the Dodgers win it, the guy who will close out the game they win it on the mound will be Shohei Ohtani.
Huh.
Yeah, they will bring him in to be the closer. And I say that knowing that Dave Roberts said that there was a decent chance that if they had gone on after Game 4, that Shohei would have been used as a closer in one of the games.
Yeah.
And that'll give you the cool visual of the DH going down to warm up in the bullpen, and then may have to come out of the bullpen to take an at bat if his spot comes around while he's warming up to come into the game. So I have to pause the game. The door has to open. He has to run in to grab his helmet. What does the pitch clock do? Does he start with 2 strikes because it took so long for him to get from the? He can use one. He's got to save his time out, I guess.
I actually wrote about this in June or something because they came to play the Royals in Kansas City, they give him a little more time, but he still has to hurry.
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, your special circumstances, relief pitchers coming in,
But I'm
injury
saying,
replacements.
but this to me, this would be a different thing. This would be, he's not in the game yet. He's not coming in to pitch yet.
Yeah,
They sent him down to the bullpen to get warmed up so he can be the closer.
right.
While he's warming up, the Dodgers start getting some hits, and
Oh.
his spot comes up, and he has
I
to go
see.
bat. How do you accommodate for that? Does he have to sprint in from the bullpen and grab it? Hey, somebody can stand there with his. He's got a bunch of body armor to put on. He's got to put a thing on his elbow. He's got to put a thing on his. I just wonder how that works. I want to see it now. I want to see how it works.
That would be.
I know
hilarious.
what Oleg would say. Oleg is still mad that Shohei counts as two players, that he gets to stay in the game when he's not pitching. And he's like, well, they made a rule just for him. So now there'll be a new Shohei rule, and it'll be the rule that Shohei, when if he's warming up in the bullpen, his spot comes up, the game has to pause for 5 minutes while he.
But have they talked about, maybe just as interesting of a question is, have they talked about this? Have the Dodgers brought it up? Hey, what if this happens? Because
you'd have to, if you were going to think at all about having him be a reliever in a playoff game. Wouldn't you think you would have had to have talked to the league and said, what do we do in this scenario to make sure that he doesn't strike out before he actually gets to the plate? That'd be quite a visual. Just up standing there with an empty, just strike one, waits 25 seconds, strike two. Here's Shohei still trying to put his helmet on. You're out. Inning's over. Now go pitch.
Would anybody give? Yeah. Would there be? We haven't had a situation where we get to strike two of the pitch clock violation.
Yeah. We've had people strike out on it, right? Somebody with 2 strikes do a violation. We've never had anybody get 3 violations in an at-bat and strike out without doing anything. That's because Milton Bradley is no longer in the league. I can imagine Milton getting strike 1 and standing there yelling at the umpire the whole time while strike 2 and strike 3 happens. And then, having to be restrained and hauled into the dugout. And I really miss that guy for a lot of reasons. I just heard that, but the betting odds, the Dodgers are 180. You have to bet. Is that right? No, they're 220. You got to bet $220 to win 100. And then the Blue Jays are, what would that be? Plus 180. So I might throw a couple of bucks on the Blue Jays just to see if I can win. But of course, that's exactly why the odds are set up the way they are, to try to incentivize you to pick the losing side. But I think they have a chance. I don't think this Dodger team is as good as last year's Dodger team. I still think it's obviously very good. And they are more likely than not to win another World Series. But I don't think it's impossible for the Blue Jays to beat them.
Well,
I'm kind of hoping
Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm kind of hoping this Dodger team ends up being the Tony La Russa A's, where 2 of the biggest upsets of World Series history happened within a 3-year period, where you lose to the Orful Hirschneuser Dodgers and get swept by Lou Piniella's Reds.
Yeah, I think that's I guess I spoiled my opinion earlier, but I think it's possible. The Dodgers, I don't think as a whole are better than last year, but they do have Shohei pitching.
Yeah.
And they do, Mookie is better at shortstop now than he was last year. Now, I don't know. I don't remember, was he so bad last year? That he wasn't that bad, but I mean, he was mediocre.
Well,
is that
I guess
going to make a difference? I don't know.
Yeah, and a big difference obviously is this year they have starting pitching. Last year they really didn't have any. They were scraping by. They needed a huge effort out of Walker Buehler, and they needed Jack Flaherty to not completely crap himself, and they don't have to worry about either of those things. So
Freddie Freeman isn't.
That's right. He has, both of his feet work. That helps. All right, maybe they are better than last year. Fine.
Well, he hasn't been.
Me.
His results haven't been. His results with his bad legs are still better than what he's been doing lately, but maybe he's just due. I don't know.
There's a whole thing about will he get booed at game 1?
Yeah.
I don't think the friendly Canadians are going to boo one of their favorite home country guys. I think the play is you give him a nice ovation before his first at bat, and then you can boo him after that if you want.
Yeah.
But
they did boo, I don't know about at first, but they did eventually end up booing Josh Naylor, who is, I think more of a antagonist in, as far as doing stuff that would sort of make you turn on him.
Him jumping into the throw was pretty good.
I think he might have gotten hit even if he hadn't jumped.
Yeah, and if he hadn't jumped and he got hit, they would not have called it. I don't think. It would have just been, but he made it so obvious what he was doing. It's really hard to be like, oh, he didn't mean to do that. Oh, he didn't. He literally jumped into the path of the ball. It's not like Reggie getting hit in his fat ass when he clearly he threw a cheek to hit the ball back in whatever 70 whatever year that was.
77.
This was undeniable. Everybody knew what Josh did. It was kind of funny that he did it, but he wasn't going to get away with it.
I think he had like 3 choices, and he picked the wrong one. This is the choice. The first thing that you're going to do in that situation, if you're a base runner, is like duck a little, like not go up but go down, and you don't want to go down because you want to maximize the possibility of getting hit. So in order to not go down, you go up just to make sure. But that makes it look too much like that's what you're doing. So if he had just been normal or even like ducked a little, I still say it probably would have hit off his helmet, the top of the helmet.
Yeah, I think you're
and
right.
Then he could have gotten away with it.
Yep.
But he overplayed his hand or his head a little too much.
Yep. So last week when we did this, I was like, well, we can talk about the open managerial thing, but we'll save it for next week I have to talk about the 2 that are so obvious that we know they're going to happen. And I nailed them both. I'd like to give myself credit for Albert Pujols to the Angels and Nick Hundley to the Giants, because those things both happened, right? Now, I guess the only question with the Angels now is, does Kurt Suzuki wear his Make America Great Again hat that he wore to the White House in 2020 to his press conference when he gets introduced? Or he puts the wrong red hat on at the press conference?
Right. Oh, that's the other red hat. Yeah.
Oops. Oh, yeah. Great, Kurt. It sounds like Pujols, though, is up for other jobs, which is funny. Like the Padres are interested in him, and I forget the other one now.
I'm not surprised that he is. I don't know like what's going on behind the scenes as far as Pujols. Is it just Artie wanting to pay him his $1 million personal service deal, and like
I think it was more money? John Heyman yesterday said that the final thing was Albert wanting the Angels, and he would be very smart to do this, wanting the Angels to commit to how much money they were going to spend on payroll over the life of his contract, and them not being willing to do it. And he basically said, well, Albert is telling him, if you're going to run the team the way you've been running the last few years, then no, I don't want to manage this team because you can't win. Sounds like that's what it came down to. Like they basically had the structure of his part of the deal done. Like his compensation apparently wasn't the issue.
Right.
It was, okay, that's fine. I'll manage for this much, but what are we going to do about getting some pitching around here finally? And what are we going to do about other things? And they just wouldn't commit to what Albert thought they needed to. And he said, well, I don't want to do it then.
Angels, according to USA Today, 13th in payroll, $190 million.
Yeah,
I think the Red Sox ahead of the Giants.
I think Albert's fear is that it's going the other direction. It's not likely to stay there or go up. They want it to go down.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think you can win that way. He's probably right.
I think there's another elephant in the room, and that is the Tyler Skaggs trial. I think Albert sees what's going on with that business and what the Angels are possibly liable for, and just I don't know that it puts them in a in a compromised situation one way or another. And why do you necessarily want to be working for the team that that where this is happening? And it's really kind of an ugly situation and really sad. And yesterday you mentioned Suzuki getting the job, and Mike Trout is testifying in court as it happens. So they can't get out of their own way, and I can't help but think that Albert sees what is happening to the Angels or what they made happen, and not wanting to be associated with them. I think that
Yeah.
has to be part of what's going on, and that also might have something to do with commitment to payroll and all that other stuff. So,
Yeah.
because of whatever might be owed to Skaggs' family coming up.
I was trying to think of the other team he was connected to was Padres.
Padres, the Orioles,
maybe the Orioles. The Giants, apparently, I wasn't completely wrong. Apparently, they did offer the job to Nick Hundley. Nick turned it down. Decided he doesn't want to manage yet. He wants to spend more time at home, which is fine.
With Michael Jordan's family.
So that's right. He saw Michael and his weird red eyes on halftime last night. And now the NBA is back on NBC. And so now they're going after Tennessee head coach, because you're not a manager in college, right? You're a head coach, Tony Vitello.
Yeah.
And it's an awkward situation in that it's fall baseball time at Tennessee. So they were scrimmaging yesterday, and he was there, and he got his stuff on, and he's still coaching them because he hasn't decided yet, or they haven't come to terms yet on a deal. I don't know a lot about him other than he does the draft coverage on MLB Network because he has so many guys who get drafted. And I've always been like impressed by him on the thing. Like, oh, this guy seems pretty sharp and good on TV. I don't know what that helps you as a manager. It doesn't hurt, I guess. Is this a reaction to the great job that Pat Murphy has done with the Brewers? It's like, we got to get a college coach. And I know that that's more of a joke because Pat has worked in Major League Baseball for the last decade, including been an interim manager with the Padres and was Craig's bench coach with the Brewers before he got the job. I think it's probably more of college programs are run a lot more like Major League franchises now. And if a guy is good at it, the parallels are more similar than they used to be. This isn't like Augie Garrido screaming at the 18-year-olds or the greatest coach in NIU baseball history, Spanky McFarland, who would have been my coach if he hadn't cut me.
Well, he was your coach during tryouts.
That's right. I did talk to him. He went, "You want to play college? You want to play college baseball, kid? Yeah, fine, really, fine. Go whatever. Go. Try not to hurt yourself." That was his. Try not to spike yourself. That's what he told me. That was words of wisdom from Spanky McFarland.
I think there is some truth, actually, a little bit in all of what you're saying. The college program. I don't know how much it's exactly like baseball, but I think it is more complicated, and I don't know. It's taken more seriously in some ways than it used to be. So I don't know exactly how many parallels there are, but I think it's, in college sports in general, everybody knows the changes that have been going on and the pains in the butt of recruiting and keeping players and the transfer portal and all that. But I think, and Pat Murphy, has the background too, as you mentioned, of a minor league manager and coach and all that. And Vitello doesn't have that as far as professional. But he's got a nice list of players that have been drafted that he is either recruited or coached or both at Arkansas before Tennessee and before that at Mizzou. And, including like Max Scherzer swears by him. Exactly. So he's got experience recruiting and coaching and developing all kinds of major league players at multiple different stops, just not when they were professionals.
Yeah.
So while he doesn't have the background as a minor league manager, professional manager, he does have the background of doing all the things, or doing a lot of the things that teams want their managers to do, to be involved with, to have knowledge of. They be cynical about it and say, well, they want a spy in the dugout or someone to do it like thinking or whatever. I think there's some truth in that. But he's also got results just as a coach, as a manager. They won the national championship in 2024. They've been to, 3 or World Series, men's college World Series or whatever in the last 5 years or 4 years. He's been to a bunch of regionals. He's turned Tennessee into a consistent national power in baseball like they had not been before. I mean, they'd been to the World Series before, but not like this. Hadn't won a championship before. So he's doing all kinds of stuff that they like in a manager. So the fact that his experience didn't necessarily happen, in Beloit, isn't, no offense, it isn't as much of a strike against him as it might have been at another time.
Don Money's still alive. So
right.
There's your bench coach, Tony.
Right.
I like that he looks like Eddie Rabbit. It's always high on my list.
Windshield wipers.
That's always high on my list.
Boy, we are hitting 40, 50-year-old references hard. But I guess we usually do.
I finally came up with the name that I couldn't think of before we came on. So the rumor of who his bench coach would be, and I knew it was a funny name, funny haha, if he'd be a fine bench coach if Tony ends up getting the Giants job. Jace Tingler.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I got confused with Trey Hillman in my mind. I read Jace Tingler. I pictured Trey Hillman, which was not right.
Jace had been Rocco Baldelli's number one in Minnesota. And of course, before that, he was one of the people who's managed the Padres.
I knew he managed somebody, and I couldn't think of it. I got him all confused. Anyway, as somebody who I watch an inordinate amount of Giants games just because I like they're my nighttime baseball team to watch. My late night baseball with Kruk and Kipe. I'm all for it. I think it would be interesting. It would be a fascinating thing to see if it'll work. And if the alternative is to recycle another failed manager, why not give this a shot? It's got as good a chance as any. The weird thing about it is money is going to be an issue because he makes $3 million a year right now coaching in college. And so to get him to give that up to take a risky, obviously you would think anybody who manages wants to manage a Major League Baseball team. So there's an allure there, right? But at the same time, he doesn't want to give up money. He's going to give up complete control over the program that he has there. And it costs a hell of a lot more to live in San Francisco than it does in Knoxville. So now the offer you make him will end up making him one of the highest paid managers just out of that circumstance. His floor is starting at $3 million. You probably got to pay him $5 million, I would think, to get him to go to San Francisco. And now people are like, well, we're paying this guy almost as much as, as good managers. And I guess if you're the Giants, if you're paying Bob Melvin $4 million to not manage, what does it matter if you're paying Tony $5 million to actually do it?
Right. Well, it is funny too. It's an In-N-Out Burger moving to Tennessee, so maybe Vitello moves from Tennessee to California.
It's the trade.
Yes.
So there's that. I haven't heard. Do you know any usually, and maybe I'm wrong, I thought a bunch of managers would get named in this little interregnum between the LCS and the World Series. But it doesn't seem like we got Sasaki, not Kaz. We got Suzuki, not Sasaki. We got Suzuki, Kurt. And we might get a Giants guy. We might not. But none of the other guys. Does it sound like anybody's close? Like, do we know who the Barvs are interested in? David Ross. He says they're interested in him.
I've seen there was a report. I want to say it was Rick Garoli in the Athletic said that teams are not in any particular hurry. Now I don't know why that is. We usually, I think baseball does, as you implied or said, like to have the news blackouts or the stoppage during the World Series so that the World Series gets all the playoffs get all the attention. I remember Mike Elias saying somebody reported that he's ASAP ready to get a manager, and now it's not as soon as possible. I don't know why. So I don't know if are they mostly listening to Manfred, and did the Angels not listen to Manfred with Suzuki because of the Tyler Skaggs trial? We got to get some good news in here, and Pujols just turned us down, so we got to, make an exception. So, yeah. I don't know why people aren't in a hurry, but maybe it's because most of the candidates aren't that exciting. That could be.
According to Mark Bowman of MLB.com, rumored candidates for the Braves job, David Ross and Mark DeRosa, are not being considered for the job.
Huh.
More likely to be somebody from the group of, this is an exciting group, of Walt Weiss, Eddie Perez,
yeah,
and I don't know who else. John Gibbons, also not a candidate.
Yeah, I think it probably does come. I mean, just going out there, I think it does come down to Walt Weiss or Eddie Perez. Perez has had a little bit longer with the organization, and goes back to Greg Maddux as catcher. And
well, why not Hank White then? If you're going to hire Eddie Perez, what can Eddie Perez do that Henry Blanco can't do better?
I don't know for a fact the answer to that question.
He should get the Nats job. He's been there a long time.
Yeah.
He could nap during the games. Wake Hank up. We got to change pitchers. He is a guy, though, who people have talked about as a potential future manager.
Right.
People think very highly of one of my favorite all-time Cubs, Hank White. And then the whole Walt Weiss thing, I think my initial reaction, I'm sure it's a lot of fans like, oh, God, but he managed the Rockies. It doesn't count. You can't hold that against anybody.
Right.
So.
And his decision to manage in high school, coach, I guess, to do like a reverse Vitello. That's why people were considering him before the Rockies for major league jobs. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm in high school right now. But I think it was mostly because of
he was at Tire World. I don't know. Can I get back to you, Charlie? I got a guy on the other line who goes to the White Wolves.
Talk to you
later. The Orioles. That was another Ross connection. I can't see him doing that after I don't know. Maybe they could. I don't see him going after any old Cubs after you part with Brendan Hyde, and then, I'm sure Joe Madden would like himself to be a candidate for that job. I'm sure he's not a candidate for that job. He doesn't seem to be a candidate for any job.
Right.
People aren't breaking down Joe's door. I mean, my guess is for Joe to ever get back, teams would have to start to shift away from we want a manager to execute our analytic game plan thing.
Yeah.
And then you got to put up with Joe spending the first 20 minutes of the interview telling you that I was the first guy to ever use a laptop. I was the first baseball guy ever to use a laptop. And I used to lug it around, and then he has to tell you what car he was driving. And it's like, okay, Joe, we've heard this. His story was really interesting the first time he told it. The last 1,000 times, it's kind of losing its allure.
The Ohtani rule, that was me.
It was him. It's his second greatest accomplishment. Third. Cubs win the World Series. Rays go to the World Series. Strong arm a rule in just out of pure force of personality. This is how it is, right? It's how you did it in the All-Star game. That's how we do it now, right? Okay, sure. Why not?
I wonder what his thoughts are on your bullpen pinch hitting conundrum, or not pinch hitting, but
I don't know.
Conundrum.
Maybe should I send a message to Brian Kenny? He can ask Joe about it during his. He does a thing at least a couple times a week on MLB Network. He would love
You
that.
should.
Joe
And
would
then try
just
Cap too.
Joe
Cap,
would come up with the rule
out.
right on the live on the air. He would have basically, and then Manfred would be like, I guess we're doing that now. Joe says this is how this works.
Right.
We get to run 4 extra commercials while Shohei gets ready. Oh, perfect. That sounds great. Just zoom in on the Strauss logo for 60 seconds while Shohei gets ready, and then they can write us a check, and it'll work out great. Well, the Rangers hired Skippy Schumacher. They did that right away, right? They didn't even wait. What about the Rooney Rule? Oh, that's the wrong sport.
That is. That's the wrong sport in that sport.
Padres don't know. Haven't heard anything about the Nats. What about the Twins? What are you hearing about the Twins?
It's not going to be Torrey Hunter. They've asked like Derek Shelton. They've interviewed Derek Shelton. They've interviewed James Rowson. So all the old hitting coaches.
Yeah.
Well,
Rowson, the old Cub hitting coach, if they interview every former Cub hitting coach from the Theo regime, they can't pick a manager till February. They won't have one. They won't get the interviews done before spring training if they do that.
Right.
There's 1,000 of them. Angels, Orioles. I guess we don't know. It kind of makes you feel like maybe teams don't think that the manager job is as important as it used to be.
Yeah. Could it be like
we'll just get a guy that'll help execute our game plan? That's basically what they want.
Maybe it's a passive aggressive way of a soft salary cap on. Maybe that's what's holding up Vitello. It's like, it's going to take like $5 million for me to move, and they're like, that's it's like 3 or 4 more than we were willing to spend. But I always think too, people are thinking ahead to. They're sure there's going to be a lockout, and so why bother? Maybe it's like nihilistic. This is all going to hell anyway. Let's just not have a manager this year. Let's have a gap year. College coaches.
I'm amazed nobody's done the player manager thing. Oh, we're already paying you $40 million a year. Why don't you manage the damn team? Juan Soto, new manager of the Mets.
Shohei.
Yeah. Shohei, we're going to defer even more of your money so that you can. I think it was Andy McCullough. It's like, what's everybody complaining about? He only makes $2 million a year. The Brewers, we can't match up with it. They probably pay their best player $2 million a year. What do you care? He'll get $68 million a year for the rest of his life when he retires. Who cares? Dave Roberts. Do you know why Dave Roberts makes $8.1 million a year?
Remind me why.
Because Craig Counsell makes $8 million a year.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. I knew it as soon as I saw it. 4 years, $32.4 million. I'm like, I know how he got that 0.4. I got to make more than Craig. And they're like, okay, fine, but just barely. Although I'd like to, if they're going to throw a spare $100,000 around, I could take it off their hands. If they want to.
Yeah, really.
If that means nothing to them.
How many billions do you need?
What did you think of Dave accepting the trophy and basically saying, we're gonna keep ruining baseball?
I thought it was pretty funny. He later said in his, they did an online, a Zoom, a Skype press conference yesterday, and he said, somebody asked him, so where does the repeating part, how did that come into the motivation of this season? And he's like, I think we mentioned it once, first day of spring training maybe, but I didn't want it to take on that extra thing about winning another one. So he didn't say like, well, we're going to pretend that last year didn't happen, but I think I got what his logic was, that, we don't have to win 2. We just have to win 1 again. So, it was a funny thing to say in the moment.
I was, I was completely fine with it when he said it. I remember thinking, yeah, I would embrace it too. Like if I were managing the Dodgers, I would be, because here's a, I don't want to, I haven't really started. I know what I'm writing about for Monday. And it's not, the Dodgers aren't ruining baseball. It's the owners who will spend a lot of money aren't the ones that are ruining baseball. It's the ones who have the money and won't spend it. They're the ones that are ruining baseball. The Dodgers are not ruining baseball. They are playing within the rules and they're just doing it better than everybody else. And there are other owners, and there might be one in not that far from here, who have enough money to spend a lot more than they do and actually compete head to go toe to toe with the Dodgers, and they just won't do it. And they're the ones that are ruining baseball, not the Dodgers. So if Dave Roberts wants to yell that, he had more power to him, because he's making fun of it, and he's right to do it.
I might have written something exactly like that today in the former Deadspin.
Yeah,
it's still a place. I mean, that isn't what it was, but for $45, I'll write wherever.
Yep.
And I said, the Brewers were like 23rd in payroll, something like that this year. They didn't spend as much money on payroll as the Rockies. So if the Brewers had spent a little more and gotten maybe to the middle on payroll, picked up a couple right-handed hitting power hitters, maybe another pitcher. I'm not saying it should have been Corbin Burns, but I don't know. Someone else that could go 6 innings. Maybe they'd have beaten the Dodgers, or maybe they'd have a better chance. And the Dodgers are actually an example of, sure, they have more money than God, but they put resources into things other than payroll. International scouting, development. These are things, that other teams could afford. Every other team can afford. Not every team can afford $300 or $400 million in payroll, but they can all afford to max out in those other areas and to be better. Or they could afford to spend a little bit more, like the Brewers. The Brewers, I think, are probably good in international money and development too. Or at least they're good at it. I don't know if they spend the money, but they're good at it. They focus on it. If the Brewers were 15th instead of 23rd in payroll, I would have a little more sympathy for them. But they don't even try. They're busy buying up beaches, the owner is. So
I think people forget who owns them, or maybe don't even know who owns them. And it's almost like they think that maybe Bud is still trying to pay for them out of the proceeds from the used car lot.
Yeah.
Mark Anastasio is worth $2 billion. He's got plenty of money to spend on that payroll. One of the things the Brewers do effectively is they use the excuse of, we have to sell players, to part with players at maybe an optimal time to do it. Mm-hmm. Like Devin Williams, they were kind of ready to move away from him, and they could use we can't afford him anymore. And then he goes to the Yankees, and he wasn't very good. And he was kind of a prick to his teammates, which the Brewers were tired of dealing with him. The Corbin Burns thing, they probably, obviously it looks great now in hindsight, because he had 1 year with the Orioles, and he goes to the D-backs and blows his arm out, and the Brewers aren't paying him for that. But when they get to a point like this year, if they decide, we got to trade Freddie Peralta because we can't afford him, they're either they're lying to everybody that they can't afford him, because clearly they could, like they can have a higher payroll, or they're just looking at where he is on the pitcher age graph and going, he's worth more to us now and what we can get in return than if we keep him. And they almost get they kind of use it, I think, as an advantage, which is some of these are sound baseball moves that aren't going to be very popular. And we just hide behind we're just a little market team and we can't afford to pay. But some of it also is I don't think they should have it both ways, because every baseball team could have a much higher payroll than it does. None of the teams that artificially, like the Cubs, who keep their payroll down, are worse, like the Pirates. They absolutely could have a $220 million payroll, and it wouldn't affect the bottom line of the owner at all. They just don't do it.
Right.
Those are the ones you really get mad at, because they're the ones, if you talk about ruining baseball, they're the ones that ruin it, because you got uncompetitive teams. In the Pirates, you have an uncompetitive team with a great pitcher on it. Paul Skeens deserves a lot more than playing on that team with them not really trying to win. So
It's 10 years ago now, but when the Royals won the World Series in 2015, their payroll got up to like 11th or something. So they did that. And when they won the World Series that year, they weren't really known for it, but they hit a bunch of home runs. That's how they won. They hit home runs in the World Series. They traded for Johnny Cueto. Their payroll got up to 11th. And this is a team, this is one of the tiniest markets in the league. It's like Milwaukee or smaller. I don't know.
I guess Milwaukee's the smallest now.
Okay. Well, it ain't that different.
No, it's not.
And they won. And it was for the first time in 30 years. And the Brewers refuse. They refuse.
Well, and you can get into the other stuff. Like, yes, Milwaukee plays in the smallest market. They also don't pay a goddamn thing for their stadium.
Yeah.
They don't pay anything for it. The 5 county, there's a reason when you go to a Brewer game, there's always a thank you video to 5 particular counties in the state of Wisconsin. It's because they're the ones that had to pony up all the money to build the stadium. So, yes, you're in a small market, but you have some pretty big economic advantages. I mean, the Ricketts must just be, oh my God, we had to spend we went so over budget. We had to spend $1 billion to renovate Wrigley. We had to pay for it ourselves. Boo hoo hoo. And, well, that's your own fault. You wring money out of that place that you wouldn't believe.
And if you want to make strategic decisions or tactical decisions, like we got to move Freddie Peralta, okay, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't put money behind someone else.
Yeah. I mean, like, inevitably, like, they signed Jackson Chourio to a very friendly, incredibly team-friendly contract.
Yeah.
But they're going to get to a point where he's making, like, he makes $25 million a year his last 2 years, but they're both team options. So they're not picking those up. He's traded before he gets to that point.
Yeah.
He's not even going to be 30 years old when they trade him. Right. He's probably going to be more like 27 when they trade him. And it's going to actually be indefensible. Because
and another thing,
he'll still be their best player. He'll be better than he is now. He's a great player now, and he's 21. And they could easily afford to hang on to him. The one guy they paid, I think, well, the Cubs kind of hid behind we signed Jason Hayward, it didn't work out, blah, 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 blah. I think the Brewers kind of used the Christian Yelich trade contract as the same thing. Well, we paid him all this money, and he's been hurt, and it doesn't work for us. That's one contract doesn't. You can't base everything on one contract.
And on a bigger scale, individually, what you're saying about the future Chourio contract in a few years is true. If you look at payroll in Major League Baseball over the past 15 years, and you attach it to adjust the money for the dollar, the value of the dollar, teams are not. It is. They're not paying that much more for players than they used to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When you look at what money is worth now.
Yep.
So it's very misleading. Like, you see teams like went over the $150, $200 million threshold like 8 or 9 years ago. And it's just with inflation, it's just not as much money as it used to be. Yeah. So that Chourio contract is going to sound like a lot of money. It's like, oh, we can't pay $20 million for this guy, but that's like the $21 million is going to be the qualifying offer. It's not a lot of money relative to what they're bringing in. And that goes for the payrolls from the top to the bottom, not just the one
example that like slapped me in the face when I was looking stuff up this past offseason was the Bryce Harper contract. Yeah. Which at the time was like, oh my God, how could you pay them 13 years and it was all that money and blah, 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 blah. He signed that deal in 2019, I think. Yeah. Right before the Nats won the World Series without him.
Yeah.
And it came down to, like, he had always wanted, he basically had been telling Chris Bryant forever, I'm going to sign with the Cubs. I want to come play for the Cubs. That looks like that'd be a fun place to play. I want to come play for the Cubs. The Cubs had tried to time their Jason Hayward contract so that he was going to opt out in time for them to sign Bryce. And then, of course, he didn't opt out. But then they decided they didn't want to be a part of it. It came down to the Giants and the Nats. And the Giants actually came up with a higher offer, but it was really close. And he decided to go to the Nats. It's a better ballpark to hit in and blah, 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 blah. But it was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much money this is. If the Cubs had signed him to the same contract that the Nats did sign him to, he would have been their third highest paid player this year.
Right.
That's how much these huge deals, they age. Like, you can scream and yell about the money, but then in a few years you look back and it's just like when the Cubs inevitably let Kyle Tucker go this offseason. And then a couple of years from now, when they realize they have to go find people to replace his offense, they will spend more money on worse players to fill a hole that they could have simply filled by keeping him. And teams make that mistake over and over and over again. And they don't ever seem to learn from it because I guess they just don't want to. But I will be really interested in the offers he gets this offseason because I don't worry for him. I don't care. It's like he's already made more money than he's ever going to need. But this is a really bad year, I think, to be the big time free agent. Maybe it's not him. Maybe he's immune to it because he's by far the best offensive player on the market. But there's so many teams right now who just don't want, last year there weren't that many teams that spent money. And with the labor thing coming up next year, there's a whole bunch more that just plan, I think, to sit it out mostly. And it's just, he's going to be sifting through a smaller number of offers. Now, the Dodgers are likely to swoop in and offer him a lot of money, and then they're going to pay him until he's 60. And he'll probably end up taking that deal, and he'll end up making a shitload of money. But the market could be really weird this winter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing we know is that he'll sign a deferred contract, and then the guys over at Bleacher Nation will the Cubs can't do that because that's deferring money. And it's like, the Cubs should defer money. They should. Every team should do it. You can make money on the money before you spend the money.
Right.
It's not dumb. It's fine. And it's a workaround to the current labor thing, and you should do it. So, but the Cubs flat out say they won't do it anymore because they had to write Jason Hayward a check for $2 million for like 3 years after they got rid of him. And that apparently soured him on it forever. So, whatever. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to have to start doing this. I'd wait till the very last minute. But I need to start plugging my book.
Oh.
The Immortals, which is a book about the 2016 Cubs.
It's a sharp-looking book.
It will be, yes. This is the not-for-resale proof copy that they sent me. It'll be available soon. I made some changes to the formatting, and I sent it back, so I'm doing it again. And there was a companion book to this, which is not quite yet done, which is called It Was Great Until It Wasn't, which is about the 2003-2004 Cubs. Oh. So you can do all your Christmas shopping in one place this year. You can just buy 2 of my books.
That sounds like good reading.
It's going to be something, at least. The 03-04 book, I pulled a lot of old columns from those 2 years, and I realized as I was editing them, oh God, there's a lot of terrible jokes in here. Like some that you just should not have made in the first place, and others that just I couldn't imagine they were funny 22 years ago. So I cleaned some of that up. It's side noted. It's not footnoted. They're side noted. So like when I make a reference to something, it pops up in the column over here. So you don't have to do the infinite jest thing where you have to have 4 bookmarks and go to the back and come to the front of the book. It's right there for you. So anyway, I just got that the other day.
Obviously going to sell better than Infinite Jest with that.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. My wife was like, how many of those do you think he'll sell? And I'm like, I don't know. A dozen. She's like, why are you doing it? I don't know. It seemed fun. So anyway, she seemed very excited. Like, what are we going to spend all the money on? Oh, it'll probably cost me money in the end, but that's worth it. All right. Well, it'll be fun to watch a World Series and see what happens. And then it gets on to the part of this year that's most exciting for Cub fans, the off season. When we hear all the rumors and get all excited and then they don't happen, but whatever. All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Andy.
Many of us have herpes.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. I mean, got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Thank you. Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much,
awesome.
Andy.